One summer day, my girls and I were out drawing on the sidewalk with chalk. Yogi was 2 and playing ball with Jackson on the grass when he noticed what we were doing. He ran over and looked at all of our drawings. Then he grabbed a piece of chalk and drew 3 wiggly lines. He proudly said, "I drew F for Yogi." His 3 lines did kind of resemble an F, and we all laughed. Yogi is a nickname his mom gave him, but his real name is Franco. At his daycare, they called him Frankie, and they must have been teaching him about his name. He knew that the letter was an F, and he knew that it was the first letter of his name. And he knew we all called him Yogi, so that is why he drew an F for Yogi. This is completely normal and shows that his daycare was doing a good job of teaching him the letters. He was only 2 after all. But the story also does a good job of illustrating how, after you teach your child the letters, you also need to teach them the sound that each letter makes. Hello, I'm your host, Miriam Brown. In addition to my teaching certificate, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's in curriculum and instruction. I spent the last decade as a public school teacher, and I want to give you insider tips on how to help your child do well in a system that might otherwise fail them. Today, I want to focus on teaching your child the basic sounds that the letters make. While researching this episode, I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Triple R Teaching, and I heard a researcher named Pam Kastner explain how English sounds work. She said that the English language is not crazy, it's logical. Then she continued on to explain 5 complicated things you need to know to be able to sound out words and spell them. Actually, it was really overwhelming. She is right, English does have rules. It's just that there are a lot of them. Too many to teach young children, in my opinion. Let me give you an idea of some of her principles. One of the big reasons our language is so complex is that English borrowed lots of words from other languages. For example, the word pharmacy starts with a PH instead of an F because it was borrowed from the Greek word pharmakia, which means medicine. The more isolated a language is, the fewer phonemes or letter sounds it has. That's probably why native Hawaiian has one of the fewest sounds of any language. No extra words came traveling across the ocean for a long time, so their language stayed nice and simple. But Spanish has the word farmacia, which is the same as our pharmacy, but it's spelled with an F, not a PH, so I don't know that that's really an excuse for English. But we're not learning Spanish, and we can't fight the whole English language, so I guess we'll just have to accept its idiosyncrasies. There's a really great documentary called Spellbound, which features contestants in the Scripps National Spelling Bee. It's strangely exciting to watch the competition. Anyway, you start to notice that when they're asked to spell a word they don't know, they always ask the language of origin. This helps them figure out which letters to use when they're spelling the word. Which makes sense for older kids who want to win a spelling bee, but most of us are just trying to get our kids ready to read. So I personally think you should start by just teaching one letter with one sound. Later on, after they start school, they can start learning about other sounds that the letters make. You might be wondering, which letters' sounds are the basic ones? By now, you've already learned all the sounds, and you might have forgotten, for example, which is the short vowel sound and which is the long vowel sound. So let's dig in. Your vowels are going to be the trickiest. Vowels are the letters A, E, I, O, and U. I imagine them like little letter superheroes. They have the power to make quite a few different sounds depending on the situations they find themselves in. When you start teaching letter sounds, you want to start by teaching kids the letter's main superpower sound and teach them the other sounds later on. Most reading programs will start kids learning to read simple 3-letter words that use what smarty pants people call short vowels. And they are as follows. A says ah, like in apple. E says as in egg. I says I, as in insect or itchy. O says ah, like in ostrich. And U says like in underwear. Here's a little mental image to help you remember. An elephant is on an umbrella. A, an. E, elephant. I, is. O, on. The U, umbrella. Poor umbrella. It's going to be pretty useless once that elephant gets off of it. You You might want to practice so that you know the short vowel sounds so that you can help your child learn those, because sometimes it can be a little tricky. Here's a recording of making letters out of cookie dough. Stella and Evelyn have come to help, and you can hear how we all struggle when we get to I, because we can only think of words that start with the long I sound, like ice cream. You make another snake?
Yeah.
You make me a snake, and then I can make it into a letter.
Whoa.
Oh, you're making alphabet cookies.
Okay, there's an H. You want to eat it? You made an I. Good job.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the letters. Let's say the letters. A, B, C, D, E for Eva.
P for Yogi.
No, B for boy.
P for Harry.
B for ball.
Yeah.
H for
Hobby.
no, not hobby. H for happy. I for ice. No, I for
Ice cream. Ice cream.
no, because we're
P for me.
igloo.
The C.
We got. Let's make a J for June. Make me a snake, and we'll make a J for June. Later, I went and looked up short I words like insect, iguana, and itch. But in the moment, it can be so hard. So that's why it's good to be prepared. Other letters you need to watch out for are C, G, and S. Don't teach your kid that C says S like in cereal, at least not yet. Stick with the K sound. Don't teach them that G says J like in giraffe. Stick with G like gum or goat. And don't worry about teaching them that in some situations S says Z like in nose. Just keep it simple. S says S like in cereal. Just kidding. I mean soap. My friend Elizabeth lent us a really funny book by Raj Halder and Chris Carpenter called P is for Pterodactyl, the worst alphabet book ever. Yogi and I enjoyed reading it together, but I wouldn't worry about reading it to your preschooler. You want to start simple and increase the complexity over time. Now, let's talk about some fun ways to teach. I've read some experts say to start by teaching the letters in your child's first name, but this can be tricky. For example, our friend Javi has a name that starts with J but makes an H sound. You should still teach them their name, but you're going to have to be prepared to explain that Javier is a name that comes from Spanish, and in Spanish the J makes a H sound. If you don't know why your child's name has strange letter sounds, you should do a little research before teaching the sounds and the letters in their name. Reading letter books usually includes some sound recognition, so you've probably already started doing that. It's also a fun idea to have a letter of the day. Each time one of you can figure out a word that starts with the letter of the day, they get points, or maybe you can make the other person do a silly dance. Another fun one is Pictionary. You might say something like, I'm going to draw something that starts with B, and you guess what it is. Then you can draw a bear or a bat, and hopefully the clue of the first sound of the word will help them. Once they get familiar with all the sounds, they'll get to choose their own letter and sound clue for what they want to draw. In the summer, we like to play sidewalk chalk games. You can write all of the letters on the sidewalk and say, hop to the letter that makes the sound Z, or run to the letter that makes the sound P. In the car, you could play, I spy with my little eye something that starts with the D sound. And they might say, donut shop. If you can tolerate kids' songs, there are some really good ones on YouTube, like Gracie's Corner's Phonics song that you can sing along with. Songs are really good at sticking in your memory. Evelyn once asked me for a noisy toy for Christmas, so I got her a little laptop that had letters and would sing, A says A says A, touch the letter, hear the sound, A says A. And that song still floats through my head. Remember, kids love to play games with their parents, so why not choose a letter sound game? The more multisensory letter sound activities you do with them, the more they will start to connect letters with sounds. Repetition is key, so try to do something with them every day until they know their sounds. Maybe play letter games with them while you cook dinner or while you drive to pick up the other kids. Try to pair your easy learning activities with something you do almost every day of the week, and sprinkle in some extra fun but more messy or time-consuming activities every once in a while. And remember, the goal isn't to make them into child prodigies so you can brag to your friends and neighbors. The goal is to try to have them prepared for kindergarten. It doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be boring. It just takes a little bit of time every day, and sooner or later they'll be masters of phonics and ready to learn to write their letters and start making words when they get to kindergarten. So now it's time to put down your phone and go play a letter sound game with your kid.